A lot of people think success is mostly about saying yes. Yes to opportunity, yes to grow, yes to hard work, yes to responsibility, yes to being available, yes to helping, yes to trying more, yet yes to proving yourself. And in one sense, that idea makes sense. Life does require courage. It does require action. It does require openness. It does require the willingness to step forward where when fear would rather keep you small. But there is another truth that is just as important, and many people do not learn it until they are already overwhelmed. A good life is not built only by what you say yes to. It is also built by what you are strong enough to say no to. No to distraction, no to unhealthy pressure, no to people who constantly drain your energy, no to commitments that do not meet your priorities, no to opportunity that look attractive but pull you away from what matter more. No to habits that steal your time, no to emotional pressure that make you betray your own judgment, no to living in a way that keeps your future weak, fragmented, and exhausted. This is one of the quiet truths successful people understand. They are not successful because they became selective. They learn that every yes had a card. Every yes take time, energy, attention, focus, emotional space, mental bandwidth. And because all of those things are limited, every careless yes is often a hidden no to something more important. When you say yes to something that does not deserve your time, you may be saying no to your health, no to your peace, no to your rest, no to your family, no to your long term work, no to your goals, no to your future version of yourself that need your attention now. That is why knowing how to say no is not a minor social skill. It is a form of self protection, it is a form of clarity, it is a form of maturity, and in many cases, it is one of the deepest forms of discipline because saying no is rarely easy. It often disappoints people, it creates discomfort, it challenges your fear of being disliked, it forces you to accept that you cannot be everything for everyone. It asks you to choose what matters most and then live that life that joy is real. That is difficult, but it is also powerful because people do not usually lose their future at all at once. They often lose it slowly through rejection, through overcommitment, through lack of boundaries, through saying yes too often for too long. And on the other side, strong futures are often built by people who learn to protect their time, their energy, their value, and their attention with greater resilience. That protection often begins with one small word no, not as rejection of life, but as respect for what matters more. That is why knowing how to say no is how you protect your future. There is a reason so many people struggle to say no. Saying yes usually feels easier in the moment. It avoids awkwardness. It keeps the conversation smooth. It reduces immediate tension. It helps you feel generous, flexible, open-minded, helpful, and agreeable. It gives temporary emotional relief. A quick yes can spare you from the discomfort of disappointing someone, from the guilt of refusing, from the fear of seeming selfish, from the possibility of being misunderstood. And because human beings are deeply social, these things matter to Earth. More people want to be like they want to be seen as kind, reliable, cooperative, supportive, useful. They do not want to feel cold, difficult, and selfish. So when a request comes, when an invite Invitation appear when pressure show up. When an opportunity look appealing, many people say that before they have really examined what that yet will cost them. They respond to the emotional pressure of the moment, not the long-term consequences of the decision. That is the trap. Because yes, though the discomfort of the present, but it often creates tree for the future. Yet given too quickly can become resentment later, exhaustion later, loss of focus later, lot of time later, regret later. Many people are not actually saying yes because it is why. They are saying yes because it is emotional easier than facing discomfort honestly. That is not the same thing. This is important to understand because it means difficulty with saying no is often not a scheduling issue first. It is an emotional issue, a fear issue, a boundary issue, a self-worth issue, a people pleasing issue. If a person cannot tolerate the discomfort of disappointing others, they will often keep agreeing to things that slowly damage their own life. The damage may not appear immediately, but over time it becomes clear. Too many obligations, too little peace, too little focus, too little energy left for what actually matters. That is why saying yes can feel kind in the moment while being unkind to your future. And that is why major people learn something difficult but necessary. Short term social comfort is not a waste, worth long term personal cost. Sometimes the healthier choice is the more uncomfortable one. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for your life is to say no. One of the biggest mindset shifts a person can make is understanding that every yes costs something. Not because everything opportunity is bad, not because generosity is bad, not because helping others is bad, but because your resources are limited. You have limited time, limited energy, limited focus, limited emotional capacity, limited physical strength, limited attention, and because those things are limited, you cannot say yes to everything without damaging something. This is when many people become careless. They evaluate decision only by whether the thing in front of them seems good, but that is incomplete thinking. Something can be good and still not be right for you right now. Something can be worthwhile and still cost too much. Something can be attractive and still punch you away from something more important. That is why every yes should be examined not only by what it offers, but by what is required. What will this cost me in time? What will this cost me in focus? What will this cost me in peace? What will this cost me in recovery? What will this cost me in attention toward my real priorities? The question matter because people often assume the danger in life comes from obviously bad choices. But sometimes the greater danger comes from too many acceptable ones, too many decent options, too many minor allegations, too many invitation invitation, too many low level distraction, too many requests that sound reasonable on their own but become destructive when combined. This is how life get crowded, not away by terrible decision, often by unfiltered yeses, and when life become crowded, quality begins to drop. Your work quality drop, your health habit drop, your emotional patience drop, your sleep drop, your ability to think deeply drop, your clarity drop, and then you start feeling like you are losing yourself. Not because you made one catastrophic mistake, but because you kept sending pieces of yourself in places that didn't deserve so much asset. This is why people take say yes seriously. They do not hand it out carelessly. They they understand say that is not only an answer It is a transfer of resources, a commitment of life, and life should not be committed thoughtlessly because what matter you keep giving your yes to will begin shaping your future. That is why selectivity is not selfishness, it is responsibility. A major reason many people struggle to say no is people pleasing. People pleasing looks gentle from the outside, helpful, kind, easygoing, supportive, but underneath there is often something more painful happening. A fear of rejection, a fear of being disliked, a fear of conflict, a fear of disappointing others, a fear that saying no will make you less lovable, less valuable, less safe. Because of that fear, many people become overly reliable, available. They say yes when they mean no. They agree when they feel resistance. They commit while already feeling tired. They smile while quietly resenting it. They have beyond what is healthy. They carry em- emotional load that were never there to carry. And over time, something important began to happen. They lose clarity because when you live too much through the approval of others, it becomes hard to hear your own judgment. You stop asking what is right. You start asking what will keep people comfortable. You stop asking what aligns with your values. You start asking what you avoid tension. You stop asking what your future needs. You start asking what will keep others from feeling disappointed right now. That is a dangerous way to live because people pleasing often create a life that looks generous from the outside but feel fragmented on the inside. The person becomes drained, overextended, quietly resentful, emotionally split. They are constantly managing how others feel while neglecting what their own life actually requires. This is why people pleasing is not just a personality trait. It is often a boundary problem, a self-worth problem, a truth problem, because at some point saying yes when you mean will become a form of self betrayal. You teach yourself that your energy is negotiable, your time is negotiable, your peace is negotiable, your goals are no negotiable. And when that pattern gets wrong, people begin to feel entitled to access they were never meant to have. This is why learning to say no is not about becoming rude or hard-hearted. It is about becoming honest enough to stop using failed yeses as a way to buy temporary approval. Honest enough to respect your own limits. Honest enough to understand that keeping everyone comfortable is not the purpose of your life. That realization is deeply freeing and deeply necessary because clarity cannot survive where constant people pleasing is running the decision. A lot of people think successful people simply do more work, more effort, more networking, more opportunities, more projects, more commitment. But in reality, many successful people are not only hardworking, they are selective. They understand that ambition without selectivity becomes self sabotage. Because if you say yes to many things, even good things, you dilute your energy, you scatter your attention, you weaken your follow through, you create a life full of motion but poor in direction. That is why successful people often look disciplined not just in what they pursue, but in what they decline. They decline distraction, they decline opportunity that do not fit the season they are in. They decline relationship that create too much instability. They decline unnecessary obligation. They decline environment that keep them mentally noisy. They display habits that steal too much time and focus. That does not mean they are close-minded. It means they understand trade-off. They know that every serious life requires sacrifice, not only sacrifice of comfort, but sacrifice of option. You cannot build something meaningful while remaining endlessly available to everything. You cannot go deep if you are always being pumped wide. You are not protect the world that matter most if your time is constantly being spent on what matter least. This is why selectivity is such a powerful trait. It protects depth, it protects excellence, it protects momentum, it protects sanity, and perhaps more importantly, it protects alignment. A person who says yes to everything gradually becomes shaped by external demand. A person who learns to say no begins shaping life with greater intention. That different matter enormously because success is not only about effort, it is also about placement of effort where your energy goes. What get your bad attention, what you keep returning to, what you protect fiercely enough that other things do not keep invading it. Successful people understand that not every open door deserves to be walked through. Some doors lead away from the life they are trying to build, and maturity is knowing the difference. One of the hardships of adulthood is that if you do not protect your life intentionally, life is feel itself for you. Other people request will feel it. Other people against you will feel it. Digital noise will feel it. Low value obligation will feel it. Distraction will feel it. Convenience will feel it. Random opportunities will feel it. And once your life is full of things you didn't choose carefully, it becomes much harder to live with depth or purpose. This is why passivity is dangerous, not because you become lazy in some obvious way, but because you become available to forces that do not care about your long-term well-being. Your phone does not care about your focus. Other people demand do not automatically care about your priorities. Entertainment Entertainment platforms do not care about your future. Again, people do not always care about your peace. The world will gladly consume your attention if you do not learn to protect it. That is why saying no is not merely refusing others. Is it claiming responsibility? Is it saying, I will not let the shape of my life be decided entirely by quarter whatever appears in front of me? That matters because many people think they are undecided, flexible, easygoing, or open, but what they actually are is unguarded and unguarded live are often live reactively, one message at a time, one request at a time, one interruption at a time, one pressure at a time. That kind of life usually feels busy, but not necessarily meaningful. Full, but not necessarily aligned. Active, but not necessarily intentional. This is where a strong no becomes protective. It says, not everything gets accepted. Not every invitation enters. Not every request overrides my priorities. Not every moment of pressure becomes a commitment. Not every available option deserves my energy. The sky of boundary is not rigid for the sake of rigidity. It is how a person keeps life from dissolving into reaction, and without that protection, the future gets weaker because future are not built only by what we intentionally do, they are also destroyed by what we fail to defend against. If you want to understand why saying no matters so much, start with time. Time is one of the few things you can spend on only one. Money can sometimes be recovered, energy sometimes be restored, focus can sometimes be rebuilt, but time when youth is gone. That should make a person more careful, but many people are strangely casual with time. They give it away to things they do not value deeply. They spend it trying to avoid awkwardness, trying to please others, trying to keep up appearances, trying to entertain themselves endlessly, trying not to miss out, and because a lot happens gradually, they often do not notice how serious it is until years have passed. This is one reason saying no matter, because no protect time, it protects morning, evening, work, block, rest, deep thought, family time, recover time, learning time, create time, silent. Other thing is meaningful life need but a distracted life really define. A careless kid yes can cost more than the hour it appears to take. It can cause mental recovery become the thought, the fatigue you after the thought, the loss of rhythm in your day, the broken focus, the attention shift that make it harder to return to your important work. That is why time cannot be evaluated only by survey duration. Something take an hour on the calendar and 3 hours in energy. Some people take in short conversation and leave you mentally scattered for the rest of the evening. Some commitment appears more, but repeated break the rhythm your better life depends on. Why people learn to feel this, they learn that time is not empty space. It is like itself in motion, and because of that, they stop protecting it weakly. They do not hand it away simple because someone else want access. They become more deliberate, more serious, more honest, but not because they do not care about others, but because they understand that wasted time is not a neutral mistake. It's a cost paid by the future self who needed that time for something deeper. That is why saying no to what wastes time is often saying yes to the life you actually want. A lot of people understand that time matters. Fewer people understand how much energy matters. You may technically have enough time for many things. That does not mean you have the energy for them. This is a major reason people become overwhelmed. They look only at calendar, not at the human being living inside the calendar. They say it not take an hour, it is only one more event, it is only one more favor, it is only one more responsibility, but they forget that every commitment lands on a nervous system, on a body, on a mind that already had limits. This is why saying yes so often becomes so expensive. It is not only that it fills time, it drains vitality, it takes emotional resources, mental resources, physical resources, and once the resources are depleted, the person may still technically be functioning, but the quality of their life falls sharply. They become more reactive, more tired, more distracted, more impatient, more dependent on quick comfort, less disciplined, less thoughtful, less present with the people they actually care about. This is where now become powerful again. Now protect the invisible part of life that most people neglect until they collapse. They need for recovery. They need for quiet. They need for making. They need for calm evening. They need for uninterrupted work. They need to be alone sometime. They need to restore emotion, steadiness. Their needs are real. Ignoring them does not make you stronger. It usually makes you more depleted. And depleted people often begin making worse decisions. They become easier to distract, easier to manipulate, easier to pressure, easier to rule of course. That is why learning to say no is also a form of energy management. It is how you keep enough yourself intact to do your real work well, to love well, to think clearly, to recover properly, to show up with quality instead of just availability. That distinction matter because a life full of yeses may make you appear generous, committed, and needed. But if though yeses destroy your energy, the deeper cost is too high. At some point, protecting your energy become part of protecting your future, and the people who understand that usually make better decisions, not just busier one. When people think about say no, they often think about only about other people request, other people invitation, other people expectation. But some of the more important nurses in our life are directed toward distraction. Distraction is one of the biggest thief of potential. Not away because it is dramatic, but because it is constant. Small interruption, mindless scrolling, pointless checking, low quality entertainment yielded without limit, digital noise, fragmented attention, the habit of always reacting instead of choosing. These things do not always look dangerous. That is what makes them so powerful. They slip into quietly, like into life quietly. They eat minutes, then hours, then attention, then depth. And eventually, a person starts feeling like they cannot focus, cannot think clearly, cannot commit deeply, cannot create momentum. But the problem is not always a lack of ambition. Sometimes it is a lack of defended attention. That is why saying no to distraction matters so much. Because attention shapes life, what you repeatedly give your attention to begin shaping your mind, your standard, your habit, and your possibilities. A distracted person can want a great thing and still fail to build them, not because they are incapable, but because they are too mentally scattered to go deep enough. Successful people often understand that saying no to distraction is not a small lifestyle improvement. It is foundational, it protects thought, it protects execution, it protects presence, it protects seriousness. This may mean saying no to constant notification, no to endless consumption, no to opening your phone every time discomfort appears, no to slow stimulation at the cost of meaningful work, no to living in fragment. That kind of no may not look impressive publicly, but privately it changes everything because a focused light can build. A distracted light usually drip over time becomes regret. That is why every time you say no to distraction, you are doing more than resisting a habit. You are declaring that your attention matter. And when a person starts protecting attention, they begin protect the future in a very real way. Many people avoid boundary because they have been taught directly or indirectly that boundaries are selfish. Thus, if they say no too clearly, they are mean. If you become less available, they are cold. If they protect their time and energy, they are self-centered. But this way of thinking is deeply unhealthy. Boundaries are not cruelty; they are structure. They are structure. They are the lie that help relationship remain honest instead of resentful. They have lie remain manageable instead of chaotic. They have generosity remain voluntary instead of coerced. Say without boundary, people often give until they become bitter. have until they become exhausted, agree until they become resentful, smile until they become emotional disconnected. That is not healthy kindness. That is eraser disguise as goodness. Real kindness include truth. Real generosity include wisdom. Real maturity include limits. A person with no boundaries is not automatically more loving. Sometimes they are simply were afraid, more afraid of disapproval, more afraid of conflict, more afraid of not being needed. That fear can make a person available in ways that look noble but slowly destroy their peace. Boundary protect against that. They say, I care, but I also have limit. I value, but I cannot abandon myself. I am willing to have, but not at the cost of everything else that matter. That is not selfish. That is sustainable, and sustainability matter. Because a life without boundaries eventually become unstable. You begin over promising, under recovering, under thinking, over giving, and then you either collapse or withdraw in frustration. Neither outcome is healthy. This is why people who build strong lives often become more comfortable with boundaries over time. They stop needing everyone to approve. They stop apologizing for every limit. They stop treating self-protect like a moral failure. They begin understanding that a well-protected life is not a selfish life. It is a life that still had enough clarity, steadiness, and energy to give meaningfully where it truly counts. That is a much wiser way to live. If you want to do meaningful work, whether in business, art, study, leadership, health, family, or personal growth, then you must protect your best work from unnecessary interferences. This is one of the greatest reasons saying no matters, because meaningful work needs depth, time, attention, mental quiet, consistency, and all of those things are easily destroyed by too many interruptions and too many commitments. Many people say they want to do great work, but they do not protect the condition great work require. They remain too available, too interruptible, too responsive to every request, too open to every opportunity, too quick to sacrifice their work for immediate pressure, and then they wonder why their life feels shallow, unfinishing, and scattered. The answer is often simple. The bad parts of their life are not being defended strong enough. This is why saying no matter to work quality, not just personal comfort. No protect concentration, no protect progress, no protect the long stretches of thought and effort that serious work usually requires. A person cannot do their best thinking if they are constant reacting. They cannot create something meaningful if their attention is broken into small pieces all day. They cannot build momentum if every block of time get invaded by what is urgent but not important. Successful people understand this more clearly than most. They know that their future often depends less on doing more and more on protecting what matters most from constant erosion. That erosion often comes through innocent looking yeses, one more meeting, one more call, one more favor, one more low value obligation, one more interruption. Individually, none of the may look disastrous. Together, they can destroy debt, and debt is where much of your value live. That is why saying no is not just about protecting your schedule. It is about protecting the quality of your contribution, the work you could do, the thought you could think, the excellence you could build if your best attention were not constantly being spent elsewhere. That is a serious issue, and it is one more reason why no is not negative. Sometimes it is one of the most constructive words you can say. Another major reason people struggle to say no is fear of missing out. The worry that if they do not say yes, they will lose an opportunity, a connection, an experience, a possible advantage, a social moment, a part that might have led somewhere important. This fear is powerful because life does involve uncertainty. This fear is powerful because life just involves uncertainty. You never fully know what one decision could lead to. So people begin saying that yes, not because it is a lie, but because they are afraid that saying no will close a door they may regret later. But this fear often creates a terrible pattern. In trying not to miss out on anything, people end up missing out on depth, on peace, on progress, on focus, on rest, on long term development, on the slower, stronger reward that require continuity. In other words, fear of missing out often makes people abandon what matters most for what merely feel possible in the moment. That is not wisdom. That is anxiety in the form of openness. Not every opportunity is your opportunity. Not every invitation is your invitation. Not every door is part of your path. And if you treat everything as a potentially essential, you will lose the power of deliberate choice. This is why major people learn a harder truth. They cannot buy a meaningful life without missing out on something. You will miss some event, some trend, some social experience, some possibility, some doors. That is not failure. That is focus. A focused life always leave you something behind. That is a part of the pride of going deep. And people who accept that become much calmer. They stop needing to sample every option. They stop reacting to every possibility as if it were urgent. They start trusting that a strong life is not built by keeping every door open forever. It is built by walking through the right door with enough commitment that something meaningful can grow there. That requires saying no, and sometimes saying no to good thing, because good thing can still become enemies of great thing if they keep pulling you away from what matter more. A person is shaped not only by their pursuit but by their refusal, by what they decline, by what they resist, by what they decline not to let define them. This matter because many think identity is built not only by visible achievement, but identity is also built by boundaries, by standard, by the thing you no longer agree to. When you say no to being constantly distracted, you become someone more capable of focus. When you say no to exhausting obligation, you become someone who takes speed seriously. When you say no to unhealthy relationship, you become someone who respect emotional health. When you say no to impulsive choices, you become someone with stronger judgment. When you say no to overwork that destroys your life, you become someone who understands balance and sustainability. Every no teaches your life something. It teaches your mind what is normal. It teaches your environment what access it has. It teaches other people how to treat you. It teaches your future what kind of foundation you are willing to build on. This is why no is not just about immediate relief. It is about long-term formation. You are training yourself every time you draw a line, either toward greater clarity or greater confusion, toward stronger self-respect and a weaker self-trust, toward intention or toward dread. This makes saying no a deeply formative act. It is not merely about keeping things out. It is about shaping what remains, and what remains becomes your life. A life that say yes to everything becomes crowded and often unclear. A life that learns to say no with wisdom becomes simpler, stronger, and more alive. That does not mean easy. It means coherent, and coherence matter because when you value your time, your energy, your action begin working together instead of fighting each other, big life become more stable, more powerful, more honest. That is one of the great gifts of learning to say no. It helps a person stop living by reaction and start living by design. Many people know they need better boundaries, but they are afraid that saying no means become cold, rude, and unkind. It's just not. A strong no doesn't not require cruelty, it requires clarity. You do not need to attract people to protect your life.